Okay. Let's see what comes through today. Shortly before I sat to record this for you, my husband and I were having a conversation about these energetic resets, we call them, that we both have at different times when it's like cosmic consciousness taps the human and says it's time to level up. And the symptoms that we both experience when we have these energetic resets. For both of us, we only tend to sleep 3 to 4 hours a night during one of these resets. And there's just, it's like we can feel the rewiring happening on it, like the energy field. It's almost like, it's like when a snake sheds its skin. It's kind of like that is happening on an energetic field type of experience. And so sleep is impacted, and then he's had one where he's had all kinds of voices and visions and all kinds of weird stuff happening that lasted for 8 days for him. I had an energetic reset like that lasted 7 weeks. So in that whole 7-week period, I only slept the average 3 to 4 hours a night. There was one night that I got 6 hours of sleep in that 7-week period. That's the longest I've had. Typically, they're about a week for both of us. And we were just kind of comparing notes. It's our 10-year anniversary, by the way. It's our 10-year anniversary. And it's weird because he was telling me about how in one particular, we're referencing an energetic reset that he had back when we were living in the Gold Coast, and all the visions he saw then and what's actually come to fruition from those visions. And how, see, one thing I'm aware of is when guidance comes through, it's still coming through the maps and the models and the reference point, the channel of the human. So I guess another way to say this is, so even if the electrical socket's working fantastically, if the device itself is broken, it won't work. Or if you're like, there's only certain functions, let's say. So the last place I was staying, their kettle had so many different functions on it, and it's because they had like a proper barista machine, and they had all these different settings where you could set the temperature of 90 degrees, 95 degrees, 100 degrees, 80 degrees based on what you were, how hot you wanted the water, and you could hold it there. And some kettles just have one button you push on and that's it, right? So the different functionality depends on the sophistication of the actual machine. And so I was thinking about how the guidance that I received when I created what came through to me as the Mystic Multi-Orgasmic Millionaire-ass Muse Masterclass, it's because the instruction was, be more tangible. Speak from what you know and be more tangible. And so that's the translation, like that's how that came through. And still, because my reference points, I guess, are quite different than most. My husband was saying, "I love you, sweetheart, but you're an odd one." And if you're ever, if your work's gonna get known, then it will have to be from uh, like your human's gonna have to learn some new skills in that way, or it's gonna have to come straight from a deeper level of consciousness. So for me, I think about my the English word would be mentor, but in my mind, guru, yeah, Master Paramahansa Yogananda, and how when he first came from the east to the west to bring yoga, the teachings of yoga to the west, he had to learn how to communicate with a whole different audience, a whole different cultural, like different priorities, people who had different priorities. And he just genuinely wanted to convey his love of the Lord, love of God, love of life, and the recognition that we're not separate from that, you know? And he was communicating with people who had different maps and models and had to find a way to adjust and adapt his language in order to communicate with them successfully. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what ends up unfolding, what happens in the Divya channel, if it'll even be called that, or who knows. Who knows? Yeah. I suppose I join you each day on these as with the intention to share presence and to witness what arises in that space. And I'm starting to really enjoy this practice. I'm starting to feel like I will keep it up. And it kind of reminds me of, I think I've gotten past the hump where, like at the gym, when you start a new workout routine, I don't know if you've had this experience before, but the resistance is always strongest at the start until the body, I guess, normalizes the practice in a way. Then it becomes pleasurable, and enjoyable. And I mean, my yoga practice is one of the highlights of my day every day. I don't know that, like, just that intentional time to deeply, just honor the expression of what wants to move through the body during that time on the mat, and just to be in intimacy with the breath. And yeah, it's just very nourishing and rejuvenating. The only times I teach yoga now are on retreats. I don't really have any other places where I share that practice. Oh, well, that's actually, I mean, yeah, that's true in that regard. In terms of an embodied asana practice. But in a bigger picture way. When one is deeply, it's interesting. So this is, when I say that the only times I teach yoga, I'm talking about the reference point that most people have for yoga, which is in the Western world, what my husband calls bend and stretch, right? The physical practice, the asana practice, which is just one of the eight limbs within Raja Yoga. And Raja Yoga is only one of, there's also Jnana, Bhakti, Karma, like this. It's such a diverse system of finding one's way to deeper connection with the truth of who we are. That whether we do it through the mind, whether we do it through the heart, whether we do it through the hands, through our action, right? Jnana Yoga is the yoga of the intellect. Bhakti is the yoga of devotion, of the heart, of love. And karma, our actions, the actions we take each day. Or Raja, the scientific, the path, the asanas, purification through the steps. And I that's that these are things I teach on in TBT. But most people only understand yoga from the sense, like, when I say most people, I mean by and large the masses. And maybe part of my path and journey is giving myself permission more fully, like a bigger permission slip to speak to those that understand the subtlety, the nuance, like to be okay with not being for the masses. And I have been, like I am by and large, but there's still a part of me that wants to be more accessible, I think, wants to be more understood by people. And that's the part that's like, I'd love for everyone to to have the keys. It's just so interesting. It's like to have the feeling that's like, I want everyone to have the keys to free themselves from the prisons of their own mind and body, if there's trauma in the body, and to unlock these doors. And if most people don't even know that they're imprisoned in that way, then the keys mean nothing. So I guess the first step in awareness is the realization. It's always humbling to recognize the depth of what's available. My I don't know if I shared with you, my bestie and I, we were chatting. He was saying to me that he's like, I'm further along than I've ever been before. I'm cleaner than I've ever been before, and I can't believe how effed up I still am in this regard. And to hold both of those, it was amusing for him to recognize, like, I'm seeing my dysfunction staring me in the face and acknowledging I have so much more work to do, and this is the result of having been working on this for the last several years. So, yeah. Anyway, those are my musings for today. Thank you for watching. If you feel to, share with me what's moving through you, then know that I welcome and encourage your comments.